So that's really my other big concentration. I'm a blogger. I write for some of my clients, and so do lots of content creation, and I really enjoy that.
Very nice, very nice. Yeah, and community. We've talked a lot about that, Phil. I think for quite a while. Community is really important for people as social media is kind of moving away from the news feed into stories, into more meeting up at conferences or just in person when you happen to be in a city. So
yep,
definitely very, very, very important.
Yeah, and it's a big trend that's happening, and I think to the testament of social media marketing world, they recognize that, and instead of pre-event having people meet up in Slack as previous years, they actually created 17 Facebook groups, and I was one of the volunteer moderators for that. So anybody who held a ticket was able to join the groups and connect pre-event for 3 months in those groups, which really made the experience of being at the conference amazing, because now you had this made community of people that you already knew before you went to this this conference was 6,000 people, but you had this group of people that you were connected with. So people had meetups and eat-ups and all kinds of meetings with people. I met some people, I ran with them, and so that was really good. But I think, a lot of companies and a lot of organizations are shifting to that model of, pages, of course, still have a place. You can do ads and do other things, but groups is really where where the connections are being made.
Very nice, very nice. So Phil, where do you want to start this week? By the way, we've got a lot of topics. We talked about these beforehand, but what do you think?
Well, lots of places we could start. I think, LinkedIn is always my kind of, that's my kind of place. I love to hang out there. So let's start with the LinkedIn topic regarding how to make it easier to set up meetings. Because I think that's really interesting. Oh, you did the targeting one. That's okay. We can do that one first.
No, which one do you want to talk about?
Let's do the second one. Yeah, let's do that one. So setting up meetings, right? So this is interesting. This is stealing a page right out of Facebook's backyard, where they're making it Messenger is doing more and more. I predicted this about 9 months ago, that LinkedIn was going to take Messenger and pull it out and make it its own thing. And we're starting to see that is, in fact, looks like that's where they're going, because now you can share your availability, and because they own Microsoft, or Microsoft owns them, I guess, depends how you look at it. I think social media rules the world, so I think LinkedIn owns them. This is really interesting that we can set up an appointment. It can synchronize with my calendar, boom, right in an appointment, so that people can book time right away with me. I think that's pretty crazy.
I think so as well. I think the other side of this is, again, because LinkedIn is owned by Microsoft, I think we should start to see, Outlook integration, like just much more further details, I think, on this.
Yeah.
Big update, I think.
Absolutely. Dorian, what do you think? You're talking about community. This is more of a one-to-one type thing, but do you see how this can scale in the community, or what do you think about this?
Yeah. I'm very excited about it, yet I'm a little cautious because I still get a lot of spam in my messenger for, LinkedIn. So, I would want to make sure that, that they are aware of that, which I'm sure they are, that, you can, kind of filter that, just like in the Facebook Messenger feed, that you don't have random people come to you and, immediately want to set appointments and, like that. But I'm sure that eventually, just like on Facebook, there'll be video calling or, all kinds of different features coming to that. I think it's good. I think a lot of the communication and a lot of the collaboration pieces that happen in social media within our industry happen in Facebook Messenger. I think that's kind of, when you're new to social media, it seems to be kind of like, it took me by surprise a couple of years ago when I really realized that's where people talk. They don't talk on public Facebook. They talk in Messenger about, hey, you want to be on my show, you want to do this, you want to do that. And I think the same thing is going to happen on LinkedIn, where, these are people that you're professionally connected with, and you can plan whole events, in Messenger and not have people see it. And it's just, you're on the platform. It makes sense to me that they're moving towards that. So it's kind of exciting. I think it also will draw more people to the platform. I think a lot of people have Facebook open a lot during the day because they want to see what their friends are doing. But if this is more active and it has a purpose beyond, connecting with new people, I think, or, getting spam messages, that I think it will boost LinkedIn usage for sure.
Definitely. And I'm sitting here looking at some comments here. I mean, with some people saying, hey, I get 99% spam, for instance, on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I will say I've seen an uptick on, overall on LinkedIn as far as the number of, just spam messages I get and so forth. But again, I mean, you also have to remember when you put yourself out there, you are opening yourself up to this. So,
right.
There's not necessarily a way to 100% control that.
Yeah. And I don't get 99.9% spam. I get maybe 20 to 30% spam. I don't get as much. I mean, I don't know if that's good or bad or what am I doing different, but maybe I'm not as popular. I don't know, but I don't get as much spam as that. And I do have genuine messages coming in and people want to connect and send me messages. So I do think that it could work. Like I just had somebody reach out to me wanting me to speak, and that went through LinkedIn messaging. So then we could set up an appointment to talk. I think this would be super useful.
Yeah,
definitely.
I totally agree with that, Dorian. I think, if we have a crappy network, we have a crappy messenger experience. And I'm hopeful that while this might draw some people to LinkedIn, I'm also hopeful that it helps us out the people that are scuzzbags, that are just there to sell. Because I got to tell you, if you and I have never talked and the first message you send me is to get on my calendar, we're not going to talk anymore.
Right.
It's just not going to be worth it. I mean, and I think from a corporate perspective, because that's where a lot of the bread and butter is here on LinkedIn, not so much the freelancers, but the bigger business. I think this actually makes things easier if we've already initiated conversation.
Sure.
Now I can keep you on the platform. You don't have to click off, because a lot of times, I'll send my Calendly link and say, here you go book some time. Let's do that. Or what's your link so that I can grab that? This just makes it a lot easier to suggest it. But what I don't want to see, we talked about Office 365 and probably Google integration on here, is what I don't want to see is if you send me an invite, that it immediately goes to my calendar like Google does, and then adds a reminder and pops up, even though I never accepted your stupid meeting because it ended up in the promotions tab and I really didn't want to go, but you get on my nerves and you get on my calendar and I'm like, what? How did that happen?
I hope that doesn't happen either.
That just seems pretty scuzzy. So,
yeah. All right. And I wonder if you can do anything. I have, can you edit that function? Can you turn it off?
I'm going to guess probably not right now, but I'm going to guess that eventually I don't know that you'll be able to turn it off, but you just don't have to use it. Like if I send you a calendar invitation or I send you my availability, you don't have to use it, right? It's just like if I send you a hyperlink, you don't have to click it.
Right.
It does make it easier. Again, people that lead with that, hey, Dorian, let's get married. I've never met you before. Let's have a meeting. No, stop that stuff.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, good update. I mean, I think, the availability piece, I also think that the ability to share location for a meeting also is important as well. We have that here up on the screen. I think these are, again, features to help break down those barriers to move you beyond, just having that, conversation online and actually getting you to set up a meeting and move things forward. So I think it's a great update this week from LinkedIn. Phil, you want to stick with this topic? Or
let's stick with LinkedIn and then we'll bounce out, right? Because we can stay talking about this because I think it's important. This is the marketing piece. So that was I think that last one was a sales piece. This is now a marketing piece, retargeting on LinkedIn, lookalike audiences, interest targeting, get this with Bing data, and then audience templates, which is, again, this is stuff that Facebook has been doing for a while, but brings LinkedIn up. I can tell you, I know that I'm going to use this more. This is a really good tool, even just to see who's there. Yeah. And it also will really legitimize how much or little traffic I get from LinkedIn. That's the other thing is as they keep lowering how much you can drive people off the platform, which is why I think they devalued it. Now they're saying, hey, if you pay, now we can put your link in front of people and now you can retarget them because they were really interested, which, just makes their ad platform stronger. And it likely means, sadly for me, more ad spend.
Yeah, definitely more
Right.
ad spend, but for people watching, by the way, if you're not familiar with lookalike audiences, this is a way for you to reach more people basically that are likely interested in your business because they're similar to your existing customers. So definitely keep that in mind, as far as what this feature does. Dorian, did you add something?
No, it's super exciting. I don't currently use LinkedIn ads for any of my clients. I've interviewed the expert AJ Wilcox in a hangout once and got lots of great information. So I think this sounds like a wonderful add-on to what's already happening on LinkedIn. And I think that, for the right people, this is a great update. This is wonderful that they're doing that. And it's just funny. Like every time somebody comes out with something new, it's really not new. It's like they're borrowing it from somewhere. But obviously that's just like, I tell my kids, when somebody copies you, it's a compliment. So, obviously it's working for Facebook, and why not add this to LinkedIn? It makes sense. It's a huge group of people to draw from. So, millions, and it makes sense to offer that lookalike audience to, grow that. And it probably is a great new revenue stream for them, or an additional, getting more people to use it, making it a little bit easier or better or more profitable for people to try LinkedIn advertising, especially those who are new to it.
And by the way, the fact that they call them LinkedIn lookalike audiences, here's the thing. If you're going to use Facebook lookalike audiences, I would say in this case, you kind of have to copy the name convention, because, if somebody goes to run a lookalike audience, they want to know that, is what Facebook calls a lookalike audience the same as what I would call it on LinkedIn, for example.
Sure.
So they definitely, in a way, have to have some similarities there as far as their way they're going to name things.
Yeah.
Big update. I think that's important. Obviously, we talked about how it's going to help you reach a bigger audience. The other thing they also are doing with this is interest targeting and campaign manager. So this is the, more LinkedIn updates, but the ability to target people based on their interests, which I think that is very, very, very useful. Phil, what do you think though about this update this week? Good update?
Well, it's a good update. I think it's interesting. Notice where they say though that they're going to help a lot of the data come from Bing, not Google.
Exactly.
Bing. Why? Of course, Microsoft owns Bing, right? So fascinating, though, to see what happens Bing is what, 15%? 20% of the available search share? I don't know. I get it, right? You want to push your own content, but is this Microsoft pulling back in their shell and saying, nope, you have to use Windows or you can't use our product? Boy, I don't know. That concerns me. It could be just the first rollout. Being honest, right? Could just be first, but Bing data, I don't know. We'll see. And of course, the nice thing is they've got an ebook, Reach Your Audience, targeting on LinkedIn, which will, of course, we'll read and consume and provide more data on in the future. But I think that's really interesting that they're going that direction, likely because they control it. Not to mention, remember, Google does not give you HTTPS referrer traffic. It just says secure in your Google Analytics, which tells me perhaps the next move is for Bing Analytics to be a big thing.
Yep. I see. Here's what I see. I think that we're going to start to see, everybody's like Google, for instance, has, Google Ads in their whole product. Everybody's using that. I think this is Microsoft's big push because it's going to help them tap into Bing. It's going to help, hopefully, maybe it'll bring some, more traffic to Bing, for example, more recognition, obviously. Then they can tie into all of their Office products. I think there's a lot of big wins here for Microsoft and LinkedIn in this case with this update.
Yeah, I think the only caution that I see here for the end user is that there are still so many people who are not filling out their profile and so are not putting in their interests, or they filled it out 5 or 10 years ago, and as they've updated their jobs, they haven't updated, what they're interested in. So this is kind of like a wake up. If you're watching this and you haven't gone into your profile on LinkedIn, go make sure that your interests are still up to date. And I think Facebook's really good at reminding you, because you can click on an ad and say, you're served this ad based on, these are the interests that you have. And I don't know if that's available on LinkedIn, but I would encourage you to go check out your profile and see what you've put on there as your interests and what you have said that you're an expert in and all those things. So, that you're included in the right audience, that you don't get served a bunch of stuff that's not relevant. Because, we all know how often people change jobs and positions and, so make sure that you update that yourself. So that will be helpful.
That's a great point, Dorian. You don't like the ads you're getting? Change your preferences. You don't like the network you're getting. Raul Colon said, I get nothing but spam on LinkedIn. I don't spam you, Raul. I bet Dorian doesn't. I bet you Christian doesn't either. So you got to just disconnect from those scuzz bombers. One strike and you're out. Same with these lookalike audiences, right? If these advertisers, if they're advertising to you in an irrelevant way, update your preferences or block that advertiser. If it's something you never want, truly give the engines what they want, which is relevancy, and you'll get more relevancy in return, because ultimately that's what you want. I love Instagram ads. I buy stuff from them, sadly, almost every week. I got my latest Maverick Goose 2020, bringing back that love and feeling. I got that t-shirt because I'm a Top Gun fan. That totally made sense. But then I get these crappy ads, and then I realize that's my fault because sometimes I click on junk.
Right.
So it's up to us. We can make this better. It also means it's going to be more effective, which means, where'd my wallet go? There's right there goes more of my cash because it's more relevancy on the ads.
Right.
Definitely.
Cool.
By the way, I want to thank everybody who's watching so far. We're, like I said, we're testing out some new equipment, new technology this week. So, if you're watching the show, whether you're on YouTube or on our Facebook page, just let us know. Leave a comment, give us a thumbs up, just to say you're here. And if you want to, tag a friend. So if you're on Facebook, just do the @ and then type a person's name, and bring them into the show. So Phil, where do you want to go from here, by the way? So we've covered LinkedIn. What else do we have?
Yeah, well, so let's move over to Instagram and talk about that, these interactive stories, because this is pretty cool. Now, before we do that, I want you to, Morgan Harrell is mocking the fact that Bing still exists, which I think is really funny. And, Raul mentions a really good point that says that you often get a vendor that is trying to sell you stuff. I totally agree, man. I totally agree with that, Raul. I think that's an important point there. You also, other business owners, unfortunately, there are clients as well as there are people that want to sell us stuff. So we just have to be really clear on what we will and won't stand for, and understand that if we're thinking we're going to sell someone, they're probably thinking the same about us. I don't like it, but it's the truth, right? I can't see this being a one-way relationship.
Right.
So, but around that, right, let's talk about interactivity. Let's talk about that, because I think this is important. The more interactive these ads are, the more interactive stories are, the more interactive social is. Frankly, the more time I spend there. So I think this is a really big deal that they can do this for us. I don't know. What do you think, Dorian? Is this a big deal? Are you an Instagram stories person at all?
Well, true confession here. I was not, but leading up to go into social media marketing world, I made a commitment to bring stories all week, and I got some great feedback on them. I learned a ton about them, using them every day. And almost every other speaker talked about Instagram stories. Michael Stelzner's, like a third of his conversation in his keynote was about Instagram stories. Made me feel really good sitting there going, I'm on day 2 of my stories about social media marketing world. Yay. So having said that, because I was pretty new to it, the interactivity piece that I used in my stories didn't really work, because I think my audience wasn't conditioned to me being on stories. I do think it's you've got to build that audience. You've got to, learn how to write the right stories. And so I'm honestly experimenting with that. A lot of my clients are local B2B businesses who aren't really using Instagram that much. We're using a lot of Facebook for them, and Facebook groups and collaboration on Facebook. And but I really like the functionality, diving a little bit deeper into it in the last week or two. I love it. I love consuming them. So as I'm consuming them, I'm learning new things. So I can certainly see that adding that piece to ads is super exciting for those who, are really, especially the bigger brands who are already, advertising. People love that. People love to play games. People love to feel like they're part of it. And I think that's what this piece is going to do. They're going to get a piece of, I can see that Dunkin' Donuts ad on there. You want to be able to vote, I like this better. Why do you like that better? Mm-hmm. And I can see that where people, feel like they're part of that brand. It's almost like brand ambassador. I love that brand so much. I want to have a vote or a say in that. And so it gives them a piece of ownership almost.
Yeah. Well, and they feel like the brand is listening, which I think is a big thing, right? Christian, are you doing these with our social chef stuff at all?
I do some of them. I started experimenting more with them. I will say this. I mean, it comes down to, you have to have a pretty sound strategy. For example, I have up here on the screen, we've got Dunkin' Donuts here, and I can't tell what these other ones are. I'm assuming that's maybe Netflix. Let's see. Well, we've got Dunkin' Donuts at least, and obviously like for them, it works very well to do Instagram stories ads that are, these interactive ones. I mean, these look fantastic. I think from a user perspective, you just have to figure out, well, hey, how does this actually help us? The part that I see the most value in with running these, by the way, is that it's not just like, for example, you could say like, hey, well, what kind of product are you interested in? Because now you can learn more about the products that your business might want to offer, but you can also use to gather feedback from your audience. And that to me is where I think there's a lot of really good value with these Instagram stories ads that you're able to run.
Good point.
Awesome. Love it. So looking in the comments here, Raul makes a really good point here. He says it's this place where he gets a lot of attention for his clients. It's super discounted ads for stories, which is fascinating, right? Gary Vee's been talking about this for a while, that stories are untapped. And I really dig this. Cost effective and, organic, right? If you tell a good story, this can really work. So those of you that are listening that are like, boy, I've got a great story to tell. Well, this might be a good opportunity for you to tell a better story. So get on that.
By the way, also with stories, a couple things to kind of mention with this. So they're calling them interactive Instagram stories ads. Now, obviously, what's the one thing you see here on the screen? We see that these are polls. So they're letting you run poll stickers on your Instagram stories ads. Now, that's like the first phase of this. Hopefully, they're going to obviously come out with some other ways to run some different types of stories or some different types of ads for Instagram stories to make them more interactive. But for example, maybe it's a shopping thing. I don't know. But right now, be sure you tap into these poll stickers if you're running them. And again, it could be like a yes, no. It could be a color base, for example. From a business perspective, I mean, and you guys tell me if you could think of any other ideas, but I think that these would be very useful for learning for you as a business owner to learn more about your customers, the products they want. For example, if you're like, hey, do I do, a t-shirt in red? Do I do a t-shirt in blue or green? Put that up as an Instagram stories ad. That way you can, learn more about it from your customers and use that data to help drive your business and what you do. Now, in addition to that, I think that Instagram stories ads also can help with, whether you want to figure out like timing and so forth as well, so kind of think about that with the results, the questions you're asking.
Do you, I don't know enough about it to know the answer, but do either of you know if once people click the poll and are part of it, can you use that as your audience and retarget them? Once they interact with your ad, can you see who it was or pull that audience from Ad Manager? Do you know?
So what you can do in Instagram and Facebook ads, basically, because it's all run through Facebook ads,
right?
You can run, you can actually create a lookalike audience off of your Instagram account. Mm-hmm. So I think because the person interacted with your channel at that point, I think you could probably retarget them.
Right. That's because that to me, that seems like the sweetest thing, that people not only see it, but they actually take action on it, meaning that they're pretty interested in your brand. And then if you can retarget them, say you were doing the, blue or red shirt. And then once you pick a shirt, then you serve that ad of that shirt that says, hey, our audience, all they wanted a blue shirt. Here it is. You can now buy it and target those same people. Yeah. That seems like a good functionality to me.
Definitely. I think so. By the way, the other thing I also want to mention about Instagram, the interactive Instagram stories ads is this. So in order to run these, it's very simple. You go to and I would pull up the Facebook Ads Manager, but I just checked earlier and I don't have the option to run Instagram Stories ads yet, at least the interactive poll, the poll stickers part. But basically what you have to do is you go to your Facebook Ads Manager, run your ads as you normally would. But the key thing you have to keep in mind here is you have to select the placements option, uncheck the box for everything that's there except for stories. And then what's supposed to happen is they're going to pull up an option that says add an interactive poll. So like you add your creative, you add your text, and then you should have an interactive poll that you can include. And that's basically how you run these. Very, very, very simple. So don't let that confuse you, because it's not really in sequence. Like, hey, I want to run an Instagram Stories ad. You have to run the whole ad and then select placement, which is further down.
Okay.
So
Interesting.
But yeah, I think this is, I'm like excited about these. I think these are going to be, one, I mean, because the other thing is Instagram's talking about how, I think it's like 60% of the audience watches, 60% of businesses on Instagram Stories use an interactive element, using whether it's a hashtag, an @ mention, or a poll sticker. But now at the same time, they also know that people aren't spending a whole lot of time. So for example, 9 out of 10 beta testers, the polling sticker increased 3-second video views. So I think to me, the key thing there is, our attention spans are so short these days that a 3-second video view does not seem like much, but that's because the attention span is just so low right now.
No, I see. I'm going to tell you, I don't think it's a low attention span. I think it's a low attention span for crap. I have a low attention span for crappy promotional content, right? I mean, your fries or donuts ad, if that was more than 3 seconds, that would be horrible. At 3 seconds, I can tolerate it, right? I want to see good content. These are advertisements, 3-second advertisements. Let's be really clear. Of course, that's our attention span. I don't like to be advertised to, and if you can't get my attention right away, I'm not going to buy your stuff. I don't have time for an hour soap opera anymore, like we did in the 70s. That's not the case. I've got choices now. So interactivity gives us better quality content, not just shorter content. Let's be clear. But adding that interactive piece is much like in the show here. If you're watching the show, you notice that we have 3 of us going back and forth. The screen changes. You're getting people's attention. Your advertising has to be at least that interesting or more in order to get people's attention. So don't just focus on the time. Focus on the quality of your content too.
Right. And by the way, there's some really cool things that you could do with very short ads. For example, one ad that I saw, which I thought was brilliant, was Audi. So like they were running it was like a YouTube ad, and it was under 4 or 5 seconds. And they basically ran the ad for their vehicle that can go from 0 to 60 in that amount of time. And it was a brilliant ad because in that short amount of time, they were able to show, the benefit of the vehicle, how fast it was and so on. So it was really creative that they ran that type of ad.
Cool.
Awesome. And that totally works, right? I mean, that's creativity. That shows it's not just 3 seconds. That shows that if you're creative, you can even capture Christian and my attention and Dorian's, because we see too many ads.
Right.
My brain is saturated full of crap. I'm doing 86 things at once. But if Christian's going to watch that 4.2 seconds because it's interesting, you can do that too.
Yeah.
So I don't know. So we got one more topic here before we get there, though, folks. Hey, if you're loving this and you want to catch more of it, make sure you sign up for the daily email. Christian puts this together. Just one thing you need every day as it relates to social media marketing. Go to socialchefs.com/daily. Get the best stuff there. One email per day. That's all you get. It's socialchefs.com/daily. You'll also get the recap from us so you can see what we talked about and what didn't make it to the show, what we left on the cutting room floor, and how to connect with our guest, the amazing Dorian Van Dam. So Dorian, are you excited about this next one? We're going to talk a little bit about Twitter, which I think that's where we first met, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so too. I was just thinking that is where we first met. I'm excited. I have to say I go through these phases of Twitter. I'm in it, I'm out of it, I'm in it, I'm still there. I have notifications on my phone. So when I'm, at conferences, I'm very active on Twitter. But I'm excited for this. Just like, you can on Facebook, with your friends, you can follow them or unfollow them and get notified and kind of take care of your feed. it's exciting to think about being notified from, certain people and see their feed, because that's what this new feature is about, right? That's the one you're talking about with Twitter.
Yep.
And I think that'd be good. I mean, in a way, you can do that, but you'd have to go into the platform on lists. I have tons of lists. That was a point in my life that I lived on Twitter, and I made, I don't know how many lists I have on there. And I would go into the native platform, go to my list, see what my friends were tweeting, and really be active on that. But it would be nice to just be able to be on my phone and get notified of certain people when they tweet. And so I think this is a great new function that's going to come out.
Yeah. And the subscribe to conversation, which I think is really interesting. It's almost like turning notifications on Facebook.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Because you know what I hate? I hate people that type following when they're going to post. Now, I understand why. I only hate it because that doesn't add value, but I get it. Because that then can elevate it, right? It will help in the algorithm.
Yeah.
I totally dig that. I get that. But people who do that thinking that's the only way to follow is a challenge. And I'd like to also see, if they're going to do away with a lot of the metrics, I would like to see how many people are following this conversation.
Right.
And who is following this conversation, so I can participate if I want to. Now, what I don't want is I don't want it to be creepy, so that now I can get targeted with ads just because I'm listening to your conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That's kind of gross.
Right. Well, I think what it will do is people, you get busy, you're tweeting, you jump off, you go back in, but you can come back to that same conversation much more easily. You can go back the next day and, see what other people have said. It kind of pulls you in instead of just, how often do we do that? It's you see something, you tweet, but that person isn't there, like 10 hours later, they respond, you go back in 3 days later. It's not a real conversation at that point because people don't necessarily live there. So, some do, but I think, again, this is a feature that will draw people in and have that real conversation. And these, somebody like me who, doesn't necessarily live on there, this would offer me an opportunity to spend some more time on Twitter, which I'm sure is their ultimate goal, right? To keep the conversation there. And it's kind of exciting. I think it would be kind of fun to get that notification and see who talks and, what's happening. And I think being drawn to other people's conversation is one piece of that, but also to figure out what makes people come talk to you and then respond back, because we all know on Facebook, that's the key. It's in order to be seen in your newsfeed, not just have people comment, but you comment back and then they comment back and then you comment back. That's the game. That's the game you want to play. That's how you get seen. That's how your friends of friends of friends, that's how it spreads. That's how you get influence. So being able to do that on Twitter and, draw people in who might have said one thing, but then they come back and see other people join, and it's the power of that. I think it's going to be good. I'm excited.
Here's hoping, right? This might be a last hurrah for Twitter. I don't know, Christian, what do you think?
I think this is a very useful feature if you use, for example, Twitter chats. I think this is fantastic for that. Because again, you don't have to here's the thing. It started out when you were on Twitter, if you want to save a tweet, for example, you had to click the, I think there was a like button or something like that, or favorite. I can't remember which word it was at the moment, but they've changed that to where now it's like, oh, hey, you can heart a tweet, for example. Same thing. It's, now it's moving away from that. It's moving away from, for example, leaving a comment saying something about following and so forth. So I think this is a very, very, very useful feature if you're spending your time on Twitter. A lot of people aren't really there having those conversations, but I think for Twitter chats, perfect for that. I think this also works extremely well for, they started testing out some different threading, for example, on Twitter conversations and whatnot. And so I think this is going to be a very, very, very useful feature for people.
Yeah, I think for live events, I think this would be great. Yep. You can draw in a whole audience. Say you're a speaker at an event and you put, a tweet out there, and you can have people, ask the questions and you can start answering them afterwards, or, connect, or I can see some good uses for that. But I think the Twitter chats is a good start as well. I think that's a good point.
And I'd also like to see this tied into hashtags, for example, because, for example, if I'm like going into your example about, events, makes a lot of sense. Like if it's something that's breaking, for example, I can't necessarily subscribe to something if I don't really kind of know about it ahead of time. But if it's an event, typically an event has a hashtag ahead of time that they're promoting. For example, we use hashtag social chatter for the show. And that's where this would be very useful as well.
So then you could put up a tweet saying, hey, we're going to go live in an hour, post your questions here. Yep. And then people can leave their questions and boom, they're all in one spot and then you can go over it. So yeah, I think for events and shows and I think it'll be pretty cool feature.
So think about this, right? Think about how this is going back to a functionality Twitter never had using the Storify platform. If I can start pulling in other tweets that are part of the conversation, even if you forgot to mark them as part of the conversation, now I can set it up. Now I've got a story platform that now allows me, and I think this starts with video, right? This starts with a Twitter video that I start with. Here it is. I've got a hashtag. I've got a button that says subscribe to conversation. And now, Dorian, you might have forgot to use the right hashtag, but I know that's what you meant. And so I can pull that tweet in. And I think this could be a big time game changer, but it's hilarious that this is what Storify did, and Storify died because there was no monetization there. Let's see what happens for Twitter, but I really like this opportunity. I really do. I think this is a good potential for Twitter, and I'm 2 thumbs up, Jack. Good job, buddy. Way to go. Best move you've made in a long time on Twitter.
And speaking of that, like I'm looking at the comments, we've got some great comments. So we've got Gail here. She's saying, yes, Twitter revival.
Yes. I admitted that right when we started talking about Twitter, mine is like up and down, was really busy and really on it. And then, went to really Facebook. And right now Facebook is my favorite platform, but this could bring me back to Twitter for sure. And as I'm traveling and going to events and speaking, I am on Twitter more when I'm on the road. It's just almost easier.
Yeah.
Barb Tomlin as well. Love the Twitter moves. So great move from Twitter here, I think.
Yep.
Audience approval.
Cool.
So we've got more topics that we didn't get to today, but we will put those in the blog post recap, as Phil mentioned. Now we're up to, I think, one of my favorite segments. And this is tool time. Tool
time. Eventually we'll have some dancing music with this, but for now, you just got to put up with the fact that I'm chair dancing, folks. So this is tool time, where we talk about 2 tools that you can use to grow your business right away. These may be tools that we've used before, tools that we've learned about, tools that are like tools that we've used before. But the goal here is to introduce you to new tools that you can use as an alternative maybe to something you already have, or like, holy crap, I didn't even think about that. So pretty cool. So Christian, which one do you want to start with, buddy?
So let's start with WP Rocket.
I'm a rocket man. Oh, okay. Sorry.
Rocket man. Yeah.
So basically, the bottom line is this: when for those of you running your blog, running a website, you're putting more content on the platform. If you're taking photos, for instance, with your smartphone, and you're just uploading them into your WordPress dashboard, not resizing the photos, for example, they could be very large. And as we're taking photos with our smartphones, the resolution is a whole lot higher than we would normally have it if we took a screenshot and so forth. So you end up typically with large files. Now, think of it like this. If you have an article and you start to put a whole bunch of very large images, or you want to put a video in there that's not an embedded video like a YouTube video or a Facebook video, but one that you've actually recorded yourself, you're not going to put a 50 megabyte file into your blog post and expect your audience to just wait for that to load. That's a lot of data. For example, all this stuff stacks on top of one another. So you want a website that loads fast. And so that's where using a tool such as WP Rocket can really help your business. This will basically help streamline your website so that it loads fast, so that viewers don't exit when your site takes forever to load.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on. My website was loading. Sorry about that. Yeah, that's terrible, right? So Google spanks us for that. Our viewers spank us for that. If your website doesn't load fast, you're dead. So I don't use WP Rocket. I've used other things like this. 100 years ago, I was a big Akamai fan when I worked in corporate America, and that was a big thing. And now it looks like WP Rocket is doing something like that, because it's a caching plugin, which probably they're distributed over some places. It's easy to configure, gets fast results. So Dorian, do you cache on your site? Do you use anything like WP Rocket or WP Smush or anything like that?
No, one of my clients does. I have to say, I have a Wix website. I moved away from WordPress, I know. But one of my clients has a really solid WordPress website, and I'm not in charge of updating any of these, but ours loads super fast. And so we've got somebody in charge of that. And I don't know if it's WP Rocket, but we just did a recent update and it looks dynamite. I love the way it looks in the back end. I'm just not techie like that. So makes sense. And I'm actually editing a huge video right now that I shot last week, and I'm thinking, maybe that won't do so well on my website. Maybe I do need to upload it to YouTube and then embed it in my website, thinking about that big file as you guys are talking. So yeah, I'll probably upload it to YouTube and then stick it in there.
No, don't use YouTube. Put it on Vimeo. Don't use YouTube.
And I was going to say, Phil makes a great point also, the fact that when if you put up content on your blog and your site loads slow, Google is going to penalize you. They do penalize you for site speed. It's a factor, or I'm going to say this, it's a ranking factor, basically. It goes into the content and everything else you put in. Also, they look at mobile as well. So think about like this, somebody's trying to load your really large website on their mobile phone. If it's not lightweight, doesn't load quickly, you're not just going to lose them, but they're not going to stick around because it's going to load very, very slow.
Sure, makes sense.
Again, we talked about community like earlier, but networking, people are going to say, well, hey, they're going to start telling their friends, my website's taking forever to load. Oh, I don't really go to that site anymore. So just kind of think about that. And this is a $49 WordPress plugin. Basically, for $49, you get one website, support for 1 year, along with updates. If you run multiple websites, consider their $99 package, which will drop the price. It'll let you install it on 3 websites. And then if you're, want infinite, for instance, you can do $249 if you manage a whole lot of websites. Another great thing, you get 2 weeks to try this out. So I would recommend, if you're interested in trying to speed up your site, this is a great place to start. And again, it's kind of like working on like a car, for example. You need to constantly be, tinkering with and improving your website to make it better, and then, like, hey, let me slap a new theme up. It's a new it's also working on the back end to keep it, maintained.
Well, and I think that's, that's where I ran into an issue when I had my WordPress site. I had way too many plugins that were working against each other. And, I just was getting all kinds of issues with it. And I just went, I spent all this money and I didn't get it right. And I just, the functionality wasn't, necessarily what I needed. It was giving me more headache. But that sounds like a great tool to have, especially if you're getting that feedback of people saying, hey, it's not fast, or you're seeing people jump in, jump out, jump in, jump out, like look at your data, right? And if that's the problem, then that sounds awesome.
That is a fantastic, it makes me think like, hey, we should run an Instagram stories, stories ad, an interactive one, like, hey, does our website load fast? Yes or no, for example. And you use that kind of data to kind of help you make some decisions.
Yeah.
Ask your audience, if you have meetups, for example, ask them, hey guys, I noticed my website was loading slow. What did you guys think? For you. So
don't forget the third choice. You have a website? What's that? Right? Let's not forget that answer too. Because some people don't, really, I know a lot of people that don't ever go to websites. They just follow you on social. So just be aware of that, right? Sometimes that's the snark that you get is going to be something like that. I say that fully not tongue-in-cheek. I mean that, folks. Some people don't believe in websites. They really think that everything belongs on social, which is scary as heck.
Right. Well, look at what just happened with the big Facebook outage. Like the blackout of 2019. Facebook was off for 10 hours and people were losing their, they were going nuts. I'm in this Facebook group with social media managers, and I couldn't access the group. I could see what was happening, but I couldn't talk. I couldn't approve anything in there. And it was absolutely nuts. And, the biggest thing that came out of that is it's borrowed land, Facebook, you got to own something. So, go fix that, have that email list, be able to email people and say, hey, Facebook's down. We're still good. Your ads will go out as soon as I'm back, right? That's what you want. And people don't have that. So yeah, it was a good reminder.
Yeah. And by the way, for those who are looking at caching plugins, Raul makes another great point. He says, this is the best, he says WP Rocket is one of the few caching plugins that the hosting providers that are premium provide. That isn't another really good point. So not all caching plugins are created equal. Some sites do not allow you to install certain ones. They maintain that environment because they don't want it to slow down their servers and whatnot. So definitely check this one out when you have a chance. So tool number 2 for the week is a time-saving tool. And I think, Phil, whenever we talk about what tool we're going to talk about this week, I like looking at these and trying to figure out, what angle is Phil taking here? So tool number 2 for the week is a tool called Writing Bunny.
Yeah. Fascinating tool. So here's the thing. I can totally see this as an opportunity to get blog posts and transcripts of videos created more efficiently because I don't always have time to do them. My biggest thing, I love video. I did probably 700, 800 hours of video last year. I was over videoed, probably over caffeinated this morning, right? But I did tons of video, and frankly, I didn't distribute them well. I didn't cut it up well. I didn't do things well because I just don't have time.
Yeah, I
just don't have the bandwidth to do it myself. So a tool like Writing Bunny then gets that to happen. And Dorian, you said you write content. I write content. Christian writes content. Not for every time does it need to be perfectly brand voiced, right? If it's just a recap of a video,
sure,
I can always go in and jazz it up. But to get it out there and to get something going about a great video that has high quality content is far better than to wait 3 weeks, especially we do this every single week. If we waited a month to post this week in social media, nobody would pay any attention to us. So I think this is a great opportunity for that. What do you think, Dorian?
So what does this tool do?
You can hire someone to write content for you.
Yep.
Oh.
And here's the thing. It's not just like blog posts. You can do blog posts. You can do scripts. For example, you need a video script. You need website content, for example. So think of it like this: blog post, website content, 2 totally different things. Email newsletter content, product descriptions, press releases, reviews, white papers. So let's say you want somebody to write a blog post, for example.
Yeah.
So this is kind of how it works from a pricing standpoint. Let's just look at it here. So, okay. So we basically go in here. We'd say, hey, we want a blog post. They charge like 15 cents per word. It looks like, looks to me, you get a 2-day turnaround time, 300 words, and it's about $57.
Okay.
So bottom line is you can pay to have somebody help write the content, help you. The bottom line is this: it helps you move your business along instead of you, for instance, being the nail that somebody's getting stuck on, for example.
Well, and so I see, this is actually interesting because this is what I do for some of my clients. Right? They actually hand over this stuff to me and say, here are the list of keywords. This is what we want. I want you to write out a blog every week, or I want you to, here's a video. Can you transcribe it and put it on? And so this kind of takes that away. So this is an aggregate of people working together. I guess. So as a content creator, I could sign up and have an account and be behind the scenes and working for this tool, right?
You could theoretically.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So that makes a lot of sense, especially because, if it's a one-off kind of thing, or, hey, I'm busy this month, this would be a great thing to have. Or if you have a new client that, you just need to get started and you haven't hired a new contractor, or your VA is really busy and you need this now, then this is a great way to do it. And like you said, you had all these ideas, you have these videos, you want to put stuff out, and then that to-do list just gets pushed and pushed. And we all know that, when you're the business owner, your clients come first. And so I think this is this is a great opportunity for a business owner who wants to have a little bit more control to say, I'm just going to log in. I'm going to use this tool. I'm going to commit to doing it. Boom. And it gets done.
Definitely. And, and you could go, for instance, I went from 300 words up to like 1,000. 1,000 is about $188. And that might seem expensive, for example, if you're not making any money in your business. But, this helps basically offload some of those tasks. For example, if you're trying to if you're constantly like treading water, you're swimming against the current. In this case, meaning you're not getting things produced and shipped. This is actually a small cost, for example, because the more you can ship, the more you can produce, the better the content you can, keep yourself out there. I think the more that, you as a business owner can grow your business as well. So keep that in mind. Phil, you want to add something?
Well, I was just going to say, you can't outsource all your writing, but for these one-off times, it's great. I also think it's nice if you want to invest a couple $100 to get a script written for a video or a commercial or something like that. It's great because if I get stuck, it's me. What do I do?
Right.
Now I've got someone else that I can bring in to do that with me. And then I can compare the two and see, oh, I didn't think about that, or, oh, that's really nice. Let's try that. So I think it's an opportunity. The fact that I can even contest this is really interesting. Again, if I want to spend more and it's really important, I can now do a contest. So I get 3 proposals and then I can pick which one I like best. Really.
Well, here's another point that I just thought of. As a content writer for one of the blogs from one of my clients, I also have guest bloggers submit blogs to me. Mm-hmm. And what I have found is a lot of them are foreign language. Now, English is not my first language, okay? I grew up in the Netherlands and I spoke Dutch until I was 18. So I have learned to blog in English and I think I'm doing a fantastic job. However, there's a lot of people out there that are grammatically correct, but their content doesn't flow. You can see they've literally translated things. So if you are in a different country or you speak a different language and you want to appeal to an American public and you know what you want to write about, but you just can't do it, I think this tool would be fantastic for you. Because I feel the frustration. I'm working with these guest bloggers and they're like, have this great content, but in good conscience, I can't put it on my blog or my client's blog. And I can't edit all of it. I don't have the bandwidth to do that if they're my guest blogger. So I think that for them, for if you're in a different language, a different country, and you want to appeal to this public, I think that would really be a good tool.
Definitely. I agree. So that's those are the tools we have for you for this week. I think, again, as Phil mentioned, I mean, they're tools. You don't have to get every tool. They're tools to help, you try out things, help you get through different processes in your business or different points where you're stuck. So, keep that in mind. But Phil, do you have anything else you want to add this week?
Well, I just want to give a big shout out to Dorian. We really appreciate that you came on the show and shared your brilliance with us. It's always fun to see you, Dorian, and we always learn something from you. So thank you.
Sure. I think this is my 3rd time on the show, 3rd or 4th. So it's always fun.
Yep. Pretty soon you get a velvet smoking jacket. It's at 11. So we're close.
All right. Let's book it. Let's do it by the end of the year.
There you go.
I want that.
Awesome. Well, hey, where do we find more of your awesome, Dorian? Where do people connect with you?
Okay, my business name is Morin Media, so 3 words, but you put them all together. So Instagram, Twitter, Morin Media. On Facebook, it's Doreen Morin-van Dam, like it says on the screen. That's where I am. I'm very active on Facebook. You can message me if you want to hang out and talk. That's really where I spend my time these days. I have a blog. It's not that active, but morinmedia.com is fun if you want to go check out all the orange things. And real quick, it's orange because I'm Dutch. Yeah, like I mentioned, Dutch is the national color of the Netherlands. So that's why all that orange is there. Fun.
Beautiful.
Pleasure having you on this week. Thanks again for spending a little bit of time with us. For those of you who want to connect with Dorian, dropping her website link in the comments on the Facebook Live. For those of you watching us on YouTube, we'll make sure we put some links there as well. Dorian, pleasure having you on as usual. Great to see you. Phil, also a pleasure having you on as well.
Thanks.
So we've got by the way, for those of you watching, just a couple of quick things. If you want to get our daily newsletter, socialchefs.com/daily. And then next week, we're going to be joined by, let's see. So Phil is going to be out. We're going to have Jessica Phillips stepping in as co-host. And then we're going to have a friend of mine, Jason Burns, on next week at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that'll be next Thursday, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But I want to thank everybody for watching. Thanks a lot for spending some time with us. If you have questions, leave them in the comments. We'll make sure that myself, Phil, or another team member answers them. But thanks a lot. And we will see you all next week. Bye.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you.